Hey guys, it's Luke, this is Motor Minds, and today I'm back with another review, and I'm driving the 2018 Golf Sportwagen. Now, Volkswagen recently, a few years ago, introduced the Golf Sportwagen lineup to come and replace the old Passat wagons and whatnot, and just as a way to get a hatchback with good fuel economy and everything, but the versatility that you could get in an SUV, and the Golf Sportwagen really does the job to combine the best of both worlds. So what we're going to do in today's review is take a look at the Sportwagen, see if it really can make the US consumers buy a wagon, because us US buyers, we really like our tall, boxy SUVs, even though we don't really need them. But I still think wagons are a great choice. So let's see if this Golf Sportwagen has what it takes. So we'll start off with the styling. This one is the Golf Sportwagen S, and the first thing you notice up front is that the whole front end's brand new. You have the headlights that have the chrome strip that runs through them. It makes it look so much more modern. It's very Audi-esque in the way it looks from the front end, especially with those classy headlights. And then when you look at the lower fascia of the bumper, you also have that nice chrome strip. You have nice intake vents for the radiator. And the whole front end of this car, I think, even though it looks a lot like the other Mark 7 Golfs, it's a very smart look, and they've classed it up quite a bit. You also have the LED daytime running lights that look awesome and really just up the look of the car. Now, when you move on to the side, the first thing you'll really notice about the Sportwagen is that it's pretty much a Golf. It looks like a stretched wagon Golf, which is exactly what it is. So the side doors are pretty much the same. The side profile is pretty much the same as the Golf, besides it being a little bit longer for the rear quarter panels to accommodate for the big tailgate. Now, this car runs on 16-inch alloy wheels since it's the 4Motion all-wheel drive version. Now, you can get up to 18s if you go for the SEL, but these 16s are great. I think they look awesome. They're multi-spoke rims, and they don't look as small as a 16-inch. And I can't even believe that the base S with front-wheel drive has a 15-inch rim. Now, when you move on to the back of this car, I think the wagon look looks really, really smart. It just looks like a longer version of the Golf, and I must say I am a sucker for wagons, so call me biased, but I just think wagons look great. Now, this has dual exhaust tips. They're not true tips, but it is an actual dual exhaust system. It has two mufflers in the rear, and doesn't really have all that much sound, but looks pretty cool with the chrome tips. And I love the LED taillights. They look so smart compared to the previous regular rear taillights that the other Mark 7s had up until now. I think it looks awesome and just classes up the look, which, to be honest, this almost, if you don't have those Volkswagen badge all over the car on the front and rear, you could probably be convinced that this is like an Audi Allroad or something, just because it looks so great. And this blue paint, oh my God, it's just, wow, I just love the way it sparkles in the light. It's a very pale blue, and you honestly don't see it on that many Volkswagens. My friend has a 2015 Golf with VMR rims in this paint. It's a two-door, and that thing looks awesome, and I must say this wagon looks great with the paint as well. So let's start talking about the powertrains. They got rid of the 5 cylinders for the old Golfs and the Passats and whatnot, and in its place you have a 1.8 liter turbo. That's nothing new. This engine produces 170 horsepower, and since this is mated to a 6-speed manual, it only puts out 184 pound-feet of torque instead of 199 that you would get with the automatic cars. I don't understand that. It's like, I don't think the extra torque is gonna rip the clutch or the synchros to shreds. So I feel like they definitely could have put the rest of that torque in there and not limited it. But either way, you can definitely tell that this is a pretty quick car. It gets from 0 to 60 in about 7 seconds. Obviously, it's a little bit slower than the other 1.8T Golfs just because you're adding a few hundred extra pounds because it's a wagon and you have the 4-wheel drive system. But it is still pretty quick. My buddy who actually owns this car says that some people have gotten it in 6.5 seconds, but 7's probably about what you'd expect. Now, this car does have the 6-speed manual, like I said earlier, and I must say, it's really a joy to shift. The throws aren't all that long. That kind of reminds me of the GTI's transmission in the way that it shifts. It's a little bit notchy when you're engaging each gear, but I personally like it. And I just think it's a really good transmission to drive every day. The clutch is super easy. It's pretty long throws. I mean, not long throws. It's a pretty long clutch travel, but I think it's a great feeling clutch. And once you get used to that kind of rubbery engage point, it is super easy to use. And honestly, having a rubbery engage point like that makes it easier to just kind of let the clutch out and just kind of cruise with it. Now, the power delivery on the whole, below 2,000 RPM, you're not really going to feel anything like you would in most cars. Boost doesn't really kick in until above 3. And when boost does kick in, honestly, it kind of kicks in like a GTI's engine does, just not nearly as aggressively. Once you're in boost, this thing does pull pretty well, just not as aggressively as a GTI's engine would. Now, this powertrain combination gives you 22 city, 31 highway. Now, if you up for the front-wheel drive model, not the all-wheel drive model, I'm pretty sure it's something like 25 city, 34 highway. But either way, having the 4Motion all-wheel drive system is a great system to have. It adds a lot of security. My buddy, he likes to go out into the woods and bike and ski and shit like that. So having this all-wheel drive system is definitely great. And it helps you grip through the turns pretty well too. The steering is definitely light. It doesn't have quite as much weight as I would like for a car when you're really pushing it through the turns, but most people that buy this thing aren't going to drive that. They're going to appreciate the light and direct steering when they're driving around town. And it definitely feels sporty in the turns. There's not that much body lean, if I'm honest, especially considering the fact that it's a wagon. And overall, it's a pretty fun car to push through some turns. The biggest thing my friend who owns this car says about it that limits it is the all-season tires that just don't have the grip that you'd expect. But I mean, hey, it's all-season tires. What are you going to do? But let's start talking about the interior and some of the features that you get on the Golf Sportwagon. Now, this Sportwagon is nicely equipped. It's the S model, which means that you don't have all the super fancy features, but honestly, I think you're going to have most of the features the average buyer is going to want out of a car like this. You have this awesome dual-tone interior. You have the cream cloth seats with a black dashboard. It creates a really nice contrast and makes it feel really light and airy in here. This car feels really big inside. You have a lot of space. I've got plenty of headroom up here. Even in the back seats, I got plenty of headroom. It's a really comfortable car. Now, this S model has the 6.5-inch touchscreen. It doesn't have the upgraded 8-inch display that you can get in the SEL trims and SE trims, but it's very easy to use. The graphics are way better than they were in the first Mark 7 edition cars, and it still has the physical buttons instead of the touch capacitive buttons that you get on the upper level trims, but personally, I'm a big fan of physical buttons compared to touch sensitive ones. I mean, the 8-inch display is definitely going to be easier to see from a viewpoint from the driver, but I still think that this display is super easy to use. It's hooked up to a 8-speaker audio system, and it also has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is great because by incorporating those systems, it means you don't have to get the super high-level infotainment system to get usability out of it when you can just connect your phone to it and be done. And I really like how when the display radio is off and everything, you just have a nice analog clock that sits there and tells you the day. It's really cool. Now, the biggest thing that you are probably going to lose on this car compared to the other trims is all of the active safety features. I don't understand why you have to go for an SC or SEL trim to get stuff like blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise control, forward collision alert. Systems like that really should be standard across the line, in my opinion, especially from a safety perspective, because I mean, it's really good just to have preventative features there to keep you from getting in an accident, and I think Volkswagen should definitely offer those here. But other than that, you still have heated seats in this car, even though it's a base trim. You do have single zone climate control. Dual zone would be nice, but it's really not a big deal at all. You have a nice leather wrapped steering wheel, which I think feels really nice, really classy. My friend put a nice German flag sticker on the emblem in the middle. That looks great. And I really love this brushed aluminum trim. Yeah, it's not real, it's plastic, but hey, what can I say? It looks great. And the whole interior just looks classy as hell in these cars. It's built to a higher standard, even though it's built in Mexico. The Mexicans have done a great job on this car, I must say. We actually realized that this car is more Mexican than it is German, but hey, Mexicans, you guys did a great job putting this whole thing together. I'm really, really impressed. Now, when you hop in the back seat of this car, there is plenty of room. Even for me being 6'2", I have tons of knee room, even behind myself, tons of headroom. And these seats, even though they're the cloth seats, they're plenty supple, plenty comfortable. The one thing I would like in this driver's seat, which is partially power adjustable, would be more lumbar support. I don't quite have enough lumbar support. It's a little bit soft, but besides that, I am super, super comfortable in this thing. Now, let's talk about practicality. The main reason you're going to buy the Sportwagon over the regular Golf would be because it has a lot more practicality. Now, you go back there and you open the trunk, and yeah, it's huge. It's pretty ridiculous just how much space you have in there. It rivals a lot of SUVs. SUVs, crossovers. This thing probably has as much cargo space as most of those. I know it beats out the Mazda CX-5 and comes close to the Subaru Forester, beats out the Crosstrek, cars like that. But it has 60-40 split folding rear seats. It also has about 66 cubic feet of space with the seats down, which is really, really impressive for a Golf. It just means you can do literally whatever in this thing. My friend also has a Thule roof rack on top, which looks just awesome. It's such a cool look, a rugged outdoorsy look. And he just throws his bike on the thing. He can throw all his camping gear in the back. So that's one thing I love about wagons, because like you don't need the extra ground clearance that a SUV is going to offer you. This thing has the four-wheel drive to get you out of mud and snow and some mild dirt. And this thing just has the ability to take you anywhere, and it looks so good doing it. It's such a classy looking car. It looks cool, and it's not even that expensive. Sticker price on this car as equipped was $25,900, and my buddy got it at an end of the model use sale for $19,000. That's really, really not bad at all, considering all of the features that you're going to get on this thing. And it's just such a great piece of machinery. Now, some of you guys might be worried about Volkswagen's reliability in general. And quite frankly, I don't blame you after Dieselgate and all that. But these 1.8Ts have actually been not that bad in terms of reliability. And my buddy has 5,000 miles on this thing without a single issue. Now, the things I don't necessarily like about this car, the engine, it sounds like an appliance, if I'm honest. It sounds pretty much like a dryer or a clothes washer. So it's not the most soul-inspiring noise in the world. But one thing I will say about this engine is that there's so much tuning possibility. My buddy was saying the turbo from the Mark 7 GTI bolts on. You can obviously do APR tunes, stage 1, stuff like that, just to get more power out of the thing. But if you're trying to make it sound any better, you're going to have to look into some sort of exhaust mod or something like that. Another thing I don't really like about the car is, like I said, I really wish that you could get the four-wheel drive in all the other trims. If you get the all-track, you can get four-wheel drive in all the trims, of course, but for just the Sportwagen, you can only get the all-wheel drive with the S trim. Now, another thing I don't like about just that is you get an awesome 6-speed. This thing's awesome, but you only get it with all-wheel drive. If you get a front-wheel drive car, you're stuck with the old 5-speed, which is a fine transmission, but honestly, 6 speeds are just so much better. I don't understand why 5 speeds is still a thing, because it just allows for much better fuel economy, and when you're shifting, a lot more fun. So now that we've covered the whole Sportwagen, let's start talking about the personality, how this car makes me feel. So I've been driving around some back roads for about 30 minutes, and I must say, if you are in the market for a car that has a lot of versatility and whatnot, that still looks good and still drives really well, this is a very solid choice. Now, in terms of personality, in terms of fun factor, I wouldn't say this car has too much personality. It's very Germanic, obviously, since it's German, but just in the way it feels. I mean, when you have a car that's put together super, super well and just does everything right, it kind of just gives it a more bland personality, especially since it doesn't have the best performance characteristics or anything like that. One thing I will say, though, Volkswagen, if you're listening, make a GTI version, please. GTI version, Golf R version, come on. The potential is there. This car could be with an extra 50, 100 horsepower or something like that. The potential's definitely there. I think VW needs to do it. That would give this car a hell of a personality. Well, thanks again for tuning into Motor Minds, guys. I'm glad to be back with yet another review. I've been doing a lot of specials recently, a lot of extras, but it's nice to have a quality review back on the table. Definitely drop a comment, subscribe if you like the content, and find us on social media if you get the chance. And definitely make sure you tune in and watch our next video.